So, this must have been in the summer of 2008 or 9 in South Florida. My friend Brianna and I were about 12 years old, and we were spending a nice summer day in her driveway just relaxing. We were sitting outside on the grassy part of her driveway that borders down the street. The house was on a dead-end road, so anyone who didn't live there never really came down that street, and she knew all her neighbors, so we were safe. But for an extra measure, she always chained her Doberman Pinscher up nearby. We were just sitting on a blanket talking in the grass when I noticed a man enter the block, roller skating down the street. Even though he was pretty far down the street, I noticed he looked a little old to be roller skating. But hey, it's South Florida. All the old people are living it up, right? I point out the man to my friend and we both kind of shrug it off, figuring he was just weaving in and out of the roads and enjoying the weather. But as he gets closer to the end of the street, we notice he's heading straight for us. We give each other a weird look, and as this man approaches us and stands directly over us, Brianna's dog begins barking and snarling. "Hey girls, isn't it a lovely day?" said the old man. I take note of his appearance because something didn't feel right, and my mom always told me to remember details of strange people, just in case you need to report them to the police. He was a tall white male who looked like he was in his late 60s, gray balding hair and an old dirty white t-shirt and teal shorts that were pretty tight and looked more like boxers than shorts to me. We were hesitant to answer him, but we just nodded our heads and said, "Yeah." My adrenaline began rushing, and I started to book inside. The man did not give off any good vibes. All of a sudden, the man pulls out a disposable camera and bubble wrap from his pocket and says, "You girls are so pretty, and it's such a lovely day. I have some film left in this camera if you want to come back with me and let me take some pictures of you. Or I can take pictures of you girls right here if that's better." "No thanks," Brianna said really sternly. She wasn't afraid of anything, nor was she shy of giving attitude. We were getting up and gathering our few items in the blanket when he said, "Really, you girls are just pretty. Are you sure?" Brianna's dog looked like he was about to break off the chain and eat this man alive. At that point, I wish he had. "I'm getting my dad," Brianna said aggressively this time, hoping the old man would take off. As soon as she said that, he turned around and was off, jetting down the street in those roller skates. And he was gone that fast. I was mostly in shock that this had just happened to us. We locked ourselves inside our house with her dog and called my mom to come pick us up, since we had actually been home alone at this time. On our way back to my house, my mom stopped to pick up pizza. We just so happened to be parked next to a cop car, so we decided to tell her what happened. She immediately freaked out and called the cop over to have us tell him what happened so he could file a report. Nothing ever came of it, and we never heard anything about it. But creepy roller skate man who wanted to take our pictures, Now I'll have to give some information so this story will make sense. My dog Thunder is an English bulldog who's an absolute marshmallow. He loves affection and has never gotten like this. He's 1 year old, but he's pretty big. I have two other dogs, however, they couldn't do anything, even if they tried, since they are pugs and are very, very small. Anyways, on to the story. I was 13 years old, and I woke up earlier than anyone in my house. I woke up to rustling downstairs. I figured it was my dogs or my sister. My sister usually goes down to get food early in the morning. I looked at my clock. It was 7:18 p.m. I was hungry, so I opened my door and started walking down the stairs. I stopped halfway down the first flight of stairs when I heard Thunder barking. I thought it was weird since Thunder usually didn't bark inside. He barked outside because our neighbors had dogs as well. I continued down the stairs, assuming he was hungry and barking at the kitchen until I stopped at the landing. What I saw made my blood go cold. There was a fucking man in the middle of the lounge staring at the crate where our dogs were. By now, Thunder was barking like a rabid dog and throwing himself against the crate. Thunder was large and strong enough to push the crate out. I felt fear wash over me. I carefully crept back upstairs to my parents' room. I shook my dad awake. He groaned in response and turned over. I was on the verge of tears now. "Dad, wake up," was all I could muster before I broke in tears. He turned back to me, realizing I was crying. "What's wrong?" "Dad, there's a man downstairs." I choked on my own tears. My dad was up in a flash. He walked downstairs quickly. This was based off what my dad told me, since I didn't want to go downstairs in fear of what was happening. He walked downstairs just in time to see Thunder sink his teeth into the man's leg. My dad told me something that gave me the chills. He said the man didn't react at all. My dad tackled the guy and then restrained him until the cops arrived. The cops took the guy away. Turns out that guy was our neighbor, Liam. Liam had a past of drugs and violence, and he even stole a motorcycle from his own brother. We didn't trust the guy, but now we trusted him even less. I was shaken by the experience, and I'm incredibly thankful for my dog. If my dog wasn't there, I most likely wouldn't be telling this story today. Edit. I forgot to add this in, but to save you guys from asking how we got in, here's how. Early in the morning, my sister had to take the 2 pugs previously mentioned to the vet to get their shots. Most likely wandered into the garage while she was pulling out. She must have not noticed him while she was trying to pull out, because my dad usually parks the car very far over, so it's difficult to get out. He pulls it so far over, so you have to back out and pull in a couple times so you don't hit the side of the garage. So this happened to me several years ago. I was 14. I'm 17 now. And overall, in that cringy scene phase, I had a friend by the name of Grace. She was 14 as well, but a few months younger than me. She was with me when this happened, but really swears that in her opinion it wasn't as scary. Me and Grace were walking down the block to her apartment, laughing at a funny Facebook post, and not really paying attention to our surroundings. So when I bumped into this guy, I wasn't really surprised. I looked up, said sorry politely, and walked around. It was weird because he had just been standing there. There had been no momentum, as though he was stock still. Whatever. Me and Grace continued to laugh, and I thought nothing of it until a few minutes later, while me and Grace were sitting on the front porch of her apartment. The guy from earlier came up to us. I guess he'd hoped that I didn't remember him or something, but I have a good memory of faces. I looked up, giving him that dirty look that only teenagers can give, and asked, "What?" in the dirtiest voice possible. I was getting really creepy vibes from him. He looked up, surprised at the tone of my voice, but didn't miss a beat. "I'm looking for the library. Do you know where it is?" Okay, this is weird. The library was down the block in the direction we'd come from, in the direction he'd gone. I figured maybe he didn't recognize it in the library, and I gave a small sigh before pointing down the block. "It's down there." Even before I finished my sentence, he shook his head. "I'm terribly sorry. I'm not good with directions. Do you want to get in my car and show me?" At this point, me and Grace were both getting up. Grace took out her keys and I shook my head. "Sorry, but me and my friend have to go upstairs. It's almost time for lunch." I was feeling self-conscious now because Grace was wearing a cute sundress. I, in all my edgy glory, was wearing damaged denim shorts and slightly revealing black top. I could practically feel him undressing me with his eyes. He looked up, disappointed, but sighed and nodded. Okay. Grace and I decided not to tell our parents, as this would lead to needless worry, and they wouldn't allow us to go to the mall to see a movie we'd been dying to see. A few weeks later, the paper called my attention because of a familiar face. It was that guy from before. It looked like a police mugshot, and the headline read, "Man Caught Burying Child in Woods." It went on to say his name was Gregory Fisher, and that had been a couple of college kids who were exploring the woods by Dead Man's Tunnel, a popular hangout for potheads. Ran into him burying some unlucky preteen. I felt sorry for the poor kid, but I was relieved that it wasn't me. Who knows what would have happened if Grace and I were more naive. So yeah, Gregory Fisher? Yeah, let's never meet again. I'm a male, and at the time of the story, I was 21. A little background. One night after working a graveyard shift, my truck gets rear-ended while I'm sitting at a red light. For some reason, the idiot who hit me thought the light was green and I was going on. In any case, my bumper was now facing down with a license plate towards the pavement. The guy was nice about it, apologized profusely, and even offered to buy me some breakfast. It was about 5 in the morning. I declined and got his phone number. Well, I was a fairly intelligent kid, but I didn't have a lot of common sense, and assuming this guy was trustworthy, didn't take down any other info. Not even his license plate. Needless to say, that guy dodged me after that, refusing to take responsibility, and my bumper remained unfixed for a while. Sometime after this, I was hanging out with my 14-year-old brother at home during the day when there was a knock on the front door. I go to answer, and I find a guy I've never met. He was about 5'8", 5'9", skinny, wearing a dark tan jacket. He had a blonde hair and a buzz cut, similar color stubble, and piercing blue eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Hey man, I noticed your jacked up bumper outside. You know I'm actually pretty good at fixing up cars. Why not let me fix it for you?" I remember kind of squinting at the guy and thinking, who the hell walks up to a perfect stranger's door offering auto repair? I mean, even if the guy could do it, I wasn't about to just let him work on my truck. I appreciate the offer, but my dad has already arranged to have it fixed through our insurance and will be taking it in soon. This was true, as the car was in my dad's name. Upon me saying this, guy's demeanor changed completely. His eyes wild and his face intense. His body language anxious. "Come on, man, just give me $50 and I'll fix it." I was taken aback by the sudden outburst, but I just remembered narrowing my eyes at the guy. If I remember quickly, my brother then peeked his head around a corner from the living room to see what was going on. I'm 6'1", and at the time I weighed 235 pounds. My brother was wiry, but around my height. So between the two of us, I believe we could intimidate this dude if need be. "I don't have $50 to give you, dude," I replied. "Besides, I just said my dad had covered it." "Fine then," the guy said, looking at a mix of eradicated and almost desperate. He attempted to polite smile. "I'll fix it for free." I was annoyed. I had no idea why this guy wanted access to my truck so bad, but I was done. So I told him thanks for the offer, but no thanks, and have a nice day. He looked like he wanted to try and change my mind again, but seemed to give up and said, "Alright, man," before walking off. I closed the door and locked it, watching the guy through the window next to the door to make sure he left. My brother and I kept an eye out for the dude, but he never came back, thankfully. Suffice to say, I was a little weirded out and slightly paranoid for a couple hours after that.